Well. Welcome, everybody. Happy Monday. Thank you all for joining me today. Welcome back to the show. We are live every single Monday here. I don't know if it's morning or afternoon or evening for you, but thank you for being here with me today. We're always covering some interesting music industry topics these days, it feels. In addition to, what else are we normally covering? Music tech topics. Sometimes we're making music. Sometimes we're covering new music tech that has dropped. You know, that kind of thing. Would love to hear from you and your questions. Of course, if you've got questions, you can ask them in the chat today. The big story we're going to be talking about today is how Spotify is seemingly getting sued by everybody. Spotify switching up their business model, adding a new feature, which seems to be an attempt to get out of paying the proper royalties for music that they should be able to pay. So we're going to talk about that. They're getting lots of negative attention. Just in this past week, a lot has been popping up for Spotify, and we'll talk about what it all means and what is happening. We're going to, of course, start today's show with some updates, tell you about some things that are coming in the pipeline. And if you saw the poll in chat, a leading question, do you need feedback on your music? And it seems that, 74% say yes, and yes, I'll be here next week. Well, of course, that is a leading question because we're going to be doing track feedback next week here on this stream. We're going to be starting about half hour, 30 minutes earlier than we started today. But we're going to do pretty much 3 hours of listening to your music. Any channel member can submit music for this, get feedback on your music. It's a very supportive community. It's a fun way to get feedback on your music. So that's coming next week at the end of today's stream. So I need somebody who is a diehard fan that's going to be in the stream from right now to the end. At the end of the stream, remind me to make the stream link public for next week. I've got it ready to go. As soon as we finish today, I will make the stream link public for next week. If you're already in the Discord, maybe Dungeon Master, maybe you can put like a GIF in there so we can see where there's a clear starting point for the track review submissions. Something fun, something that's like ready, set, go, something like that. And if you're already in the Discord, you can start dropping your tracks in the track review submissions. If you don't know, you can get your track reviewed just by becoming a channel member. You become a member for as little as $2 a month, but it helps the channel a lot, and you will be able to get feedback on your music next week. So that's the deal with that. How are we doing on levels, folks? Are we a little low today? I hope not. I can boost us up a little bit more if need be. Just let me know. Good morning, everybody. Woot woot, thank you for the 21 months from Dungeon Master. 21 months as a channel member. Thank you so much for that, my friend. Man, I need some recommendations for legal assistance, but for real, hope things get worked out for everybody. I agree. Yes, Kat, hope you brought your lawyer today, because we're getting legal on you all. We're going to talk about these Spotify cases. It's going to be fun. Good morning, Krios. Good morning, Texisto. Nice to see you. Sounds like there's some collabs afoot in the chat. Ayodi and Dungeon Master, what are you working on? What's happening? That's another cool part about our Discord server is you can connect with other like-minded creatives and producers. We've got collaboration space in there. Sounds like that's being used. J-Dog Sendy, let's send some love to J-Dog Sendy, who says, I'm not gonna lie, I've had a bad day. I'm moving and it's been hard. Moving is not easy. Moving is the worst. I've moved so many times. I've moved across the country. I've moved, back and forth. By car, by plane. It's never easy, but just buckle down. Focus on the just mundane nature of getting things from here to there. Put your body into like robot mode and don't let yourself stress out on the emotional side of things if you can. Just let your body be a machine for a little bit. Because that's what it comes down to. You can't really accomplish anything mentally while moving, I feel. It's just about get these things packed and into these boxes and into this next place. I'm literally just a machine at this point. Sympathy for moving. I'm in the same boat. Yes. But J-Dog, I hope this stream today can brighten up your day. Why don't we talk about some fun, interesting topics, some things that are in the pipeline. Well, first of all, I should thank Reset, Restart, Rebuild. Thank you so much for becoming a channel member. Welcome to the community. Thanks for becoming a wanderer. As well as Nicole Ichiki. Welcome to the Wanderers as well. Thank you for joining. New members today. Everybody, just shout out to everybody who's watching the stream. I know you all can't all financially contribute to the stream by becoming a channel member. If you can, though, for completely free, just give this stream a thumbs up. It's going to help more people find it. And just by tuning in and being here in chat and saying hi, you're showing your support. Of course, if you do want to support the stream and make sure that the show can keep going, hit the join button. It's not available on mobile, but if you look at it on desktop, you'll be able to see all of the perks. And I believe all of the perks that you get from membership are well worth the membership, I think. Okay, what? Oh, another big announcement for you today. We haven't had a community garden event in a while, I was looking for the right partner to work with, and one great partner popped up. So we are going to kick off another community garden event the second week of June. So between June and July. It's going to run for a month. So like second week of June to second week of July-ish. I'm going to shore up those dates this week. We will have a new community garden event happening. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a fun sample challenge. I'm going to put a bunch of samples that I used for my latest album, Conditions Where the Future Can't Be Delivered. So I will put a bunch of samples from that. They will be available for download for free. People will be able to participate and flip the samples. There will be prizes, including there will be feedback on the music. That will be one prize. There will be a hardware prize, and then there will be a collaboration as a prize as well. Speaking of, well, not really, but you all know I've been on the house music kick, right? I've been making, cool rabbit hole incoming. Yes, speaking of rabbit hole, before I jump to that next topic, I did drop a new video this week. All about resampling. So I don't know if you all had a chance to watch it, but I'm adding to the Ableton Live for Beginners series. So check out the Ableton Live for Beginners series if you haven't yet. It's 13 videos long now, but the latest video is all about resampling. So bookmark that for later. I'll drop that in the chat now. I think you'll take a lot from it. It's something I do a lot within the DAW, so I think it'll be a worthwhile tutorial for you all. And hey, we got a new member, Yuja Muja. What a good name, Yuja Muja. Welcome to the Wanderers, my friend. Thanks for becoming a channel member. Saw the latest video, very cool and useful. Thank you, Celestine Prof. AOD Music says great video. Great, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you. I've got one more idea for the Ableton Live for Beginner series about warping. So I'm finally trying to add to this series some more beginner functions kind of thing. And I have some other fun video ideas in the pipeline as well. One that I shot this weekend, let me give you all a sneak peek of a video that is coming. It'd be great if I could get it out next week, or this coming weekend, which I think I can. Let me give you a sneak peek though, and you can let me all know what you think of this topic. But this video is going to be all about the Astrolab and Push standalone setup. So I've made a few videos on my standalone setup, and I realized I used to feel bad that I was like changing this set. Like I'd make a video about it and then I'd change it. And then I'd make a video about it and I'd change it. But I think I have to just embrace that evolving nature. I don't know how you all feel as people viewing it. I don't know if you view it as like, oh, he talks about this setup and then he just changes it, or if it's cool to see the evolution over time. I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking too much about it. But anyway, the latest iteration regardless of my standalone setup, is very much simplified from what it was before. It's the push plus the Astrolab. And here is the, here's a little raw camera audio of what we're working with here. So much fun. Having a ton of fun with that setup. But basically I want to capture the simplicity of this setup and how I've just been having a blast being able to come over to this standalone setup and just make stuff and get to an end result quicker. So I did document the whole process of making this tune that you just heard a little preview of here, and I'll use that as a means to talk about this kind of setup. So look out for that video. Hopefully that will be out this weekend. It's just a matter of me being able to edit it and get it out, but I'm excited for it. Shot it over the course of Saturday and Sunday, so that's where we're at with a new video on the way. I'm making a lot of house music these days, folks. I got the track that I'm making for this video, and then I've got a couple projects that are kind of to be announced, where I've just been using them as an excuse to make more house music. So I hope you're ready for that, chat. I hope you're ready for that. Looks fun. Look forward to seeing the video. Thank you, Leah. Ayudi says, embrace it. Real life, no issue. Got it. Cool. That looks so cool. You have the best toys. I agree. I'm blessed with the best toys. And also, I think more toys are arriving today. Something I've been trying to get my hands on for a while. So obviously that'll be more on the content train. Yeah, that it ebbs and flows, chat, because what happens is maybe I'll go for a month or so without getting really anything new, so I have time to sort of catch up on things, and then the next month comes and it's not just like one new thing shows up, it's like a bunch of new things show up, and they all need attention and they all need my brain. So it's just funny how that happens. Namaste says, I love that you're making more house music. Heck yes. I don't know maybe I should just go with a more rigorous release schedule, because what I found is with the beats music, the beats and the ambient and I found that music very, very sound design heavy. Not that house music is not sound design heavy, but I'm focusing more on the groove and the fun of it. So I'm wondering, and maybe it's just because I'm in this beginner stage of house music production, I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to get music out faster producing this genre. I don't want to make sweeping generalizations. It's more about the vibe that you create with the music rather than the tricks. And I feel like with the album that I've just released and everything, it was sort of the realization of that. It's like these sound design tricks, getting everything to sound really cool and to like prove all this stuff, I guess. But with house music, I don't feel that. I feel more like generating a vibe, which is why that setup back there works really well, I think. I can be in the moment making music, and just by the limitation of the standalone hardware, there's the ability to tweak the sounds, but it's not as deep as it would be if you were doing like full-on sound design. House equals summer jams, just in time for the sunshine. You're right. Maybe that's even more motivation to get more music out because it's going to be summer. Give everybody something to dance to. I wish there was a way that I could... Maybe I'll do like stems for members on some of this music or something like that. I do wish that there was a way to release music for members. Can we get a TAETRO Ricky Tinez collab? That would be fantastic. I'm always worried about collaboration. But Enrique is a great guy, so I would love to do that. And he's such a smooth operator. His music is so cool. Tenley says, waiting for feedback on next week. That's right. If you just tuned in, or if you tuned in late, we're doing track feedback next week. Don't miss it. I'm going to post the stream, the scheduled stream for next week at the end of today's stream. Somebody remind me to do that. Also, if you're already in the Discord, you can post your track in the track submissions channel starting now. Cool. All right, one last fun thing to show you, and then we'll get into the madness that is Spotify just endlessly trying to screw over everybody. All right, I've been getting into craft cocktails, making fancy cocktails, themed. I kind of fell into this algorithm trap. I don't know if any of you out there make cocktails at home or go places where they have fancy cocktails, whatever. But there's this whole section of like Instagram reels with people sharing like cool recipes for cocktails and things like that. So I've been experimenting a bit. This is a spicy watermelon paloma that I made over the weekend. I thought this was a nice summer drink. It's not so sweet, but it was pretty good. So we bought a watermelon. I was going to say a shit ton of watermelon, but a lot of watermelon. Not even a lot, just one watermelon, which is a lot for two people. So I've been eating lots of watermelon, but it's watermelon, grapefruit juice, tequila, and obviously some jalapeno seeds in the mixture. Put some ice in there, make it a slush, tahini on the rim. A nice, refreshing summer beverage. But this other one that I'm really proud of, this next drink, I made a video making it because I wanted to get in on the content creation side of it. I love just taking videos and documenting, of course. That's why I have this channel. But here, a non-music related documentation. Amazon had this sale for Blu-ray, 4K Ultra HD Blu-rays. It was like 3 for $33, so $11 for a Blu-ray, and they had like a selection of ones you could choose from. So I got Dune, which of course I've seen. I just figured that would be good to own on 4K. And also, the reason I like buying Blu-rays is because of the bonus features, including director's commentary, which you can't really find online. 2, I got Poltergeist, which I have not seen, but it was just on the list and it's classic, so I figured why not. 3, I got The Thing, which is a classic movie. I love The Thing. So I wanted to make a Thing-inspired cocktail, and this is my own creation here. Obviously, this is just a picture. I think the video is going to do it better justice, but this is The Thing cocktail. It's mezcal, blue curacao, a little bit of lime juice. This is one version that I made, and there's Sour Patch Kids in there as well. 2 blue and 1 green Sour Patch Kid, if you know The Thing. This is just like the liquid version, and then it's smoked too, which you obviously can't see in the picture. And I use the flamethrower to smoke it. But then there's like a slushy version too, which I made. So anyway, that is just to say, watch my Instagram because I'm going to post a video for that sometime this week. If you need a themed cocktail for your The Thing viewing pleasure. And if you have other ideas for themed cocktails, let me know. I like the experimentation side of it. Accent noir, you're totally right. There is a joke about mixology in there for sure. I took a bartending course in Waikiki when I was stationed in Hawaii and ran a bourbon club for 4 years. I love making drinks. Blister some jalapeno and mix into a margarita. Put lihing moi on the rim. Lihing moi. I don't know what that is. Making good use of the TAETRO glasses. Exactly. Yes. I have to use them. I got them, so I got to use them. The Thing is one of my favorite horror movies. John Carpenter is a master. Yeah, The Thing is super cool. I think any movie where the premise is you have a small group of people in this isolated space, especially the Arctic, especially like boats, like they're out on the ocean. That kind of premise is pretty cool. I like that for some reason. These small isolated stories, because so many movies turn into like, and then the big monster attacks New York City, and then like all suspension of disbelief is out the window because you can't possibly imagine, or they usually don't depict it quite well. Like every Avengers movie where the third act is basically just, and then the aliens come and destroy New York City. But they do that every movie. And then every movie you come back and New York City is suddenly like put back together again and nobody's acting like anything ever happened. When the damage that the big monsters always do is like crazy. So anyway, that's to say, The Thing, I love The Thing. And I love movies like that, where it's all isolation, that kind of thing. So Alien is like that, you know. Isolated horror is my favorite genre. I never really thought of it as a genre, but I guess now that I think of it, it is. I make a lot of virgin drinks. Let me know some virgin drinks you're making, J-Dog. Been making virgin pina coladas around here as well. That's always good, and it's super easy. Just coconut cream and pineapple juice. Lee Hing Moi is a powdered, am I saying that right? I hope. Is like a powdered sugar plum thing that you can get at an Asian market. I will look for it. Y'all, what's up, Marino? How are you doing? No cocktails, but I'll be making my own schnapps this year for the first time with fruit from my garden. Now, what is a schnapp? Can somebody explain to me what is a schnapp? I originally got, around the holidays, I made this Christmas cocktail. I forget what it was called. But it was, I made it with, I made like rosemary syrup for it. And that's got like an instant Christmas flavor to it now. I'm doing great, Marino. Thank you for joining us. Jaws, Alien, The Shining, I watch them frequently. Those are all great movies. The Shining, I watched for the first time last year. I would love to recreate the bar from The Shining in my future home. That's what I would love to do. The whole visual style of The Shining, too, is everything's got this sort of bloomy, dreamy look to it. And yeah, that's another great example, because they're in this giant hotel, but it's isolated. The idea that nobody can get to them, somebody can try to get to them if they want, but they're just stuck in this hotel. Schnapps is just infused liquor. You can make your own pretty easily. I was looking for a fancy word for moonshine, if I'm honest. Nice. Cool. All right. That's enough there. Unless anybody had any movie recommendations or cocktail recipes they'd like to share. Final. Does anybody have any questions, general questions, before we get into the meat of our story? Let me see. I have so many to tell this story of what's going on with Spotify. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 articles lined up here to tell you this whole story. Thank you who is ever blasting the hearts in the chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Okay, shall we dive into this topic? Check out Moon with Sam Rockwell. Very overlooked movie with a great aesthetic and definitely in isolation. I've watched it before. Maybe I could try it again. It was just a little bizarre for me. It goes a little off the rails, to not spoil the plot of that movie. But there's a game coming with similar notes of that movie. I don't want to spoil it for people, but there's a game coming with almost a similar concept to that movie, which looks really interesting. I've also been playing Starfield. I finished Cyberpunk. Okay, we're going to get onto the Spotify thing, I promise, but just let me get this off my chest. I finished Cyberpunk finally. What I was doing was just putting it off and putting it off. I have finished Cyberpunk previously. I'd already done a playthrough, but since Phantom Liberty, I did not finish it. Phantom Liberty, this amazing expansion. So with this new game, I was kind of just like trying not to finish it because I didn't want to leave my time with it. But I finally finished it, and wow, I just ended up with like the saddest ending ever. Very different from the original ending, but it was very sad. Very sad ending to this Cyberpunk. So I might go back and play a different ending as well. I don't know. But anyway, so I've kind of closed the chapter on Cyberpunk there, giving it a break for now. And I've jumped back into Starfield, which just pales in comparison to Cyberpunk. But it does have good first-person shooting mechanics. And it's got kind of an interesting story. It's got like interesting micro stories. The big main story of the game is not that interesting. Did I listen to Captain Beefheart? I listened to a couple tracks. It was just kind of bizarre. Definitely bizarre. Maybe I need to listen to more, but it was interesting for sure. All right, let's get into our main story for today. Today we're talking about how Spotify is being sued by everybody. Everybody is mad at Spotify. Maybe you all have heard why. Let's take a trip down the Spotify to the everybody's mad at Spotify lane. First article. So this kicked off last month or something like that. Let me move my chat windows around and we'll get to it. All right. Spotify, you all know, the streaming company. Who here uses Spotify, actually? Let me do a quick poll. Let's see what people are using for stream. Which music streaming do you use? Let's do Spotify, Apple, YouTube Premium, or I'll write YouTube Music. I mean specifically YouTube Music, other. Check out that poll for me. Spotify, a very popular streaming site. I was using it up until last year. I did not cancel it on moral grounds. I canceled it on practical grounds. I was just on a family plan, and I used YouTube Premium as well, so I just consolidated that all into one YouTube Premium family plan. But Spotify seems to be the king of streaming at the moment. They do have a very good user experience, very good app. It's great. It's user-friendly. Them as a company, not so great. Okay, the first article we have to check out here. This is where it all begins. It actually begins before this, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So if you do use Spotify, you probably know that they recently added audiobooks to their bundles. And I remember while I had Spotify, I was like, oh wow, suddenly I can listen to 15 hours of an audiobook per month. That's crazy. Added value to my subscription, right? Great for users. But was Spotify doing that to be great for their users, or were they doing it for another reason? I will propose a theory in a moment, but I think this article is pretty much going to spell it out. Spotify's music audiobook bundle means a lower rate for US songwriters, but company promises record payouts. So what does this mean? Spotify music audiobook bundle, lower royalty rate. Why would that mean a lower royalty rate? So Spotify's premium plans used to only contain music. Now they contain music and audiobooks. This puts them in a different category, meaning that now they're sort of like a broader media provider, where they're not just a music service, but they're also providing books, meaning that the cost of a subscription, that pie needs to get divided up more. So basically, less is going to go to the musicians, and because they have to make room to pay the book publishers. That is what's happening here, and my theory is that they added this audiobook feature not to add value to their product, but to shortchange the royalties they would have to pay out to music publishers. Lower royalty rate for songwriters, and this basically explains that. Spotify is on, this is a quote from Spotify. Spotify is on track to pay publishers and societies more in 2024 than in 2023. As our industry partners are aware, changes in our product portfolio mean that we are paying out in different ways based on terms agreed to by both streaming services and publishers. This is a little misleading, and we're going to get into why. The statement reads, multiple DSPs have long paid a lower rate for bundles versus a standalone music subscription, and our approach is consistent. This is really important because now they're saying, look, we are not a standalone music subscription anymore. We have audiobooks. It's kind of like, yeah, but no, look, we have audiobooks. It's over here. We're not just music anymore, so we can change our royalty rate. And they are comparing themselves to Amazon, this article poses. But we all know that Spotify is not like Amazon. Amazon is a marketplace, of truly multimedia marketplace, where they have tons of video. They also have a music service. They also have TV. They also sell other products and books, etc. I think there's no denying here, and you all check me in chat if I'm wrong, there's no denying here that there's a big difference between Spotify and Amazon when it just comes to being media providers, right? They're not the same thing. But Spotify says, hey, we're kind of the same thing. So Spotify has this section of their website called Loud and Clear, which is kind of like just a propaganda site where it's going to tell you about all the nice things they do for songwriters and musicians and right holders. You can go to this. It's coming from the horse's mouth, so you can take it with as many grains of salt as you want. And it is sort of true that Spotify does pay a lot of money to songwriters for its publishing, for its royalties. We've looked at these stats before on stream. Here's Spotify gross profit year over year. You can see that in 2021, there was a 33.18% increase from 2020, a much smaller increase after traffic jam on the street. A much smaller increase from 2021 to 2022, but then another large increase from 2022 to 2023, up to 3.6 billion. This is gross profit. This is how much money they're profiting, taking home after their costs and things like that. Revenue in general looks like this. So the most recent revenue year, 2023, it was reported at about 14.3 billion, a 16.04% increase. So this is $1 billion industry. But you can obviously see that the revenue they're generating is quite different than the gross profit. I mean, it's like a nearly a $10 billion cost to operate the business. And I'll also say, reminder, that our good friend Daniel Ek, the CEO, the co-founder, is he the CEO? Yeah, CEO of Spotify. His net worth is 4.8 billion, 4.6 billion. I don't know what you want me to say, Google, but we'll go with 4.6 billion to be on the conservative side. So let's continue on. That's the numbers on the business side. So basically, a parallel I want to draw there is that Spotify says they have paid $4 billion to music publishers representing songwriters over the past 2 years. That's $4 billion over the past 2 years. That's $2 billion a year. This one person's net worth is worth more than what they paid in total to songwriters or publishers over the past 2 years. Very interesting, eh? Okay. The move reflects a reordering of the company's plan and offers. On March 1st, Spotify introduced the Audiobooks Access tier, a new standalone offering for audiobook enthusiasts in the US at $9.99 a month. It gives them 15 hours of monthly listening, 250,000 books, etc. So they basically added a whole new tier for audiobooks. which I didn't even know. I didn't know you could subscribe to Spotify just for the audiobooks. And I think that's a point of one of these lawsuits that we're about to get into. So another important part of this is that in 2022, Spotify and music publishers came to an agreement. They locked in these licensing rates with the National Music Publishers Association and other streaming services, not just Spotify, also Apple Music, Amazon, etc. They locked in a royalty rate, and now Spotify is saying, well, back then we locked in that royalty rate and we were just doing music. Now we're not just doing music, so we get to have a lower royalty rate. Let me show you what the heck we're talking about here. This keeps getting referenced throughout everything, and Spotify keeps pointing at this and being like, no, look, you all agreed to this. But I don't think that's actually true. I think that's quite disingenuous. So these organizations, these are basically like music publishing organizations, rights organizations that collect royalties on behalf of songwriters, musicians, etc. They had been negotiating for years, and there had been years, as there always is in the music industry, of turmoil, of these people are taking all the money and not distributing the money equitably to the people who own the rights to the products or the art. So the National Music Publishers Association in 2022, they went through a negotiation. They originally wanted to get a royalty rate of something closer to 20%, but they ended up settling on 15.35% for songwriters. They saw this as a big win, and this was over the course of a 5-year term. Is this confusing? Are we following along with this? Basically, you have a music publisher and you have the streamers. They need to come to some kind of agreement about what the standard rate is going to be for how these streamers are going to pay out to the artists. They went through this agreement, this big, important agreement in 2022, the Phono 4 proceeding. Phono Records 4 proceeding. They settled on 15.35%. A big part of this agreement, and the reason that the rights organizations came down from their original target of 20% was because of bundles. They specifically cited that, or Spotify used this as a negotiating tactic, saying, look, we have all these different plan levels. We have student plans, we have family plans, we have free subscription tiers, etc. So in taking that into account, they were able to negotiate down to 15%. So this is why this is causing such a stir, because when this agreement was made, Spotify was not playing this audiobook game. They were not saying like, oh, look, we sell audiobooks, so we can do even less. Instead, they sort of said, yeah, but look at all of our like student plans and blah, blah, blah. Look at all this. Let's get it down to 15.35%. And everybody was feeling good. And 2022, when this agreement was signed and then thereafter, everybody was feeling good. Dory Joe says it feels like an unfairly low rate. Right. This is still the music industry. So let's remember, the artists are not going to be getting paid fairly. But we do live in a world where 15% was a big win in 2022. So let me jump to Spotify's statement. Do they have it here? I'm going to have to jump to the next article, I think. So the head of that NMPA, the CEO president of that organization that was part of those negotiations, said, it appears Spotify has returned to attacking the very songwriters who make its business possible. Spotify's attempt to radically reduce songwriter payments by reclassifying their music service as an audiobook bundle is a cynical and potentially unlawful move that ends our period of relative peace. Great. They signed that agreement in 2022. It's 2024, and now the period of peace has ended. We will not stand for their perversion of the settlement we agreed upon in 2022 and are looking at all options. This is a summary of what we just talked about. The NMPA and streaming services resolved a years-long standoff over royalty rates with the Copyright Royalty Board ruling in 2022 and agreed upon a new rate of 15.35% for 2023 through 2027. So this is how this whole thing kicked off. They signed an agreement in 2022. All the streamers agreed. Everybody was feeling good, 15.35%. Then Spotify came up with a genius business plan and said, hey, you know what? We could just put audiobooks on the platform and then we don't have to pay the musicians as much. Wouldn't that be great? I don't need emojis right now. Thank you. But the plot thickens. Tom says, what drives me bonkers about this is there is talk in the government about adding a tax to the user to pay the artists more. Was going to make users pay $4 to $10. Yeah, I do not think that will ever pass. I think that is for sure. I did see that. They were talking about that in Congress. That is for sure super silly. But that's actually just American capitalism, right? That's like, hey, you need to like pay your workers fairly. Therefore, you must charge your customers more instead of being like, hey, maybe we should lock in a rate for the legal amount, the legal percentage a CEO is allowed to make over the lowest worker. Maybe that would be better. Maybe instead of paying out bonuses and doing stock buybacks, we should sort of rein that shit in. But no, let's pass it on to the consumer. Seriously, is the explanation for this just a sheer greed? Well, when you look at the numbers, of course, we see billions and billions of dollars, and billions of dollars is a lot of money. But when you consider Spotify if you were looking at this from a sheer business shark perspective, you would say, wow, our revenue is 14 billion and we're only profiting 3.6 billion at the end of the year. We need to beef that up. How do we beef that up? And then you start looking at all kinds of strategies. And you're like, well, if we add audiobooks, we can offer that as a new product to our audience. People might buy because of that added benefit. And then if we add audiobooks, we can just pay songwriters less. It's win-win. So it's that kind of thing. So there's that. So is it out of sheer greed? I think it's just the nature of capitalism. We must see numbers go up. That's basically what it's about. So how much are we talking here, chat? How much less is Spotify going to pay songwriters in 2024? Or in the next year? How much would you guess? Well, Billboard ran the numbers, and they estimate that Spotify will result in paying songwriters about $150 million less as a result of this plan. So, again, you're looking at it from a business shark perspective. How can we save $150 million? Well, let's add audiobooks. Not only that, they're charging a higher amount for the plan. So by adding audiobooks to Spotify's premium tier, the streaming service now claims it qualifies to pay a discounted bundle rate to songwriters for premium streams. Given Spotify now has to pay licensing for both books and music from the same price tag, which will only be $1 higher than when music was the only premium offering. So they're also raising the price. So consumer, you got to pay $1 more per month, and we're going to pay these people less. Is that okay? It's like birds attacking the window, chat. We're under fire here. Spotify sending its army. I think it's interesting to see how they calculated this. Figure was calculated by determining how Spotify's service revenue payments to labels, performance royalty rates, and other factors that impacted mechanical income are expected to rise each month throughout 2024. These 2024 projections are based on actual numbers pulled from the Mechanical Licensing Collective's Spotify rate sheets for 2023. For premium specifically, the streamer will pay an estimated $100 million less in the first 12 months of this bundling that this bundling is in effect, in comparison to what Spotify has projected to pay in the next 12 months had it never reclassified. So that's plain and simple. Spotify has basically clapped back a couple times. This is that same quote from before. This is talking about the Phono 4 agreement, which we just talked about. Where is Spotify's statement? It's in one of these articles. Perhaps it's not here. It might be in the next article here. This is the one we just read. But Spotify essentially says that everybody's just mischaracterizing this, that we're going to pay out a record amount to songwriters again in the next year. But the math is the math from Billboard. What are we thinking in the chat? There's more. The story is going to unfold even more, but let's see what you all have to say in the chat. I use Bandcamp. Yes, Bandcamp is one way around this for sure. Is there an ethical music streaming platform out there? I think Bandcamp is the one. We have to, though, also confront the fact that all consumption in a capitalist system is pretty much bad. So that doesn't mean you have to feel bad about everything you consume, but like there's exploitation happening nearly around every corner. So it's hard to say if there's one more ethical. But of course, Bandcamp, I think, is a good option because they're paying a lot to the artist. The percentage to the artist is a lot better. You're paying the artist directly, unless you're buying from a label, of course. And yes, as Dungeon Master puts, this is by design. Spotify is not a person, therefore it cannot be inherently evil. It's more like a blob of inorganic material. Its purpose is profit, and it will gravitate towards the path of least resistance. That's pretty much spot on. But, of course, Spotify is controlled by people, so you can make whatever ethical assessment you want of those people based on that. Spotify is not as censorial. I've not heard that word before. Censorial, though, as YouTube when it comes to misinformation/disinformation. At least they don't flag up podcasts as easily as YouTube does. Yeah, I mean, that's why it's a perfect place for Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan can just bring on any insane person, just say any insane crackpot theory and just go, wow. Yeah, I read that on Facebook. Wow. This is Joe Rogan's constant face. Wow. Yeah, but did you hear about how this is happening on Facebook? Yo, Jamie, bring that up. And Jamie's like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is like a fake story, confirmed fake. And he's like, no, I read it on Facebook. It's real. So yeah, that's a good point. And we're gonna get into this with the other lawsuit that's being brought up against Spotify, because podcasts is a crazy spot. Where they for sure are not content checking every single podcast, and that is causing problems for them as well. Since Epic Games bought Bandcamp in 2022, my hope is getting weak. Yeah, that's interesting, but there haven't been any. Well, there were layoffs. That's one, but since then there haven't been any other big revelations from that, so I'm not sure what the implications are. It's the same as Amazon in that they made the consumer experience great by using their capital, but squeezed out small businesses in the process. It's just the general direction of our economy. Exactly. I mean, that's how you succeed as a business. You throw a bunch of capital at a problem. So in Amazon's case, it's like, we want to sell diapers that are cheaper than that other store that you can buy diapers from. So we're going to undercut their price no matter how low they make it. And we're going to take a loss. We're going to take that loss until Prime shipping, The convenience of Prime is just ingrained into daily life and culture. And then voila, we've taken over. All those other businesses closed because they lost their business to Amazon, who could just burn money in the meantime. And then bada bing, you have a successful business. The new record amount they will pay out is likely the numbers of natural growth. Exactly. The record amount, Spotify keeps saying that we're going to pay a record amount to songwriters. I'm trying to find what record they're referencing, but it's just their own record. So it's like, yeah, we're going to pay, it's like we're going to do better than we've done. It's like not a record amount historically or something like that. I need to put all my stuff on Bandcamp, do it. And if that seems too overwhelming, just what I did with Bandcamp, where I wasn't really taking it seriously to now I use it more seriously, is I just took some of my best, most recent work, put it on there, and then going forward, I'm putting all my music there. So if it feels too overwhelming where you have to put your whole back catalog there, don't worry too much about that. Just the sooner you get on the train, the sooner going forward, your music will be there. I use YouTube also for music. Yeah, YouTube is super convenient. And you can also use YouTube for music for free. It's crazy like that. Is that coffee from space? It's just water today, but it is a cup from NASA from, what's the place in Florida? Cape Canaveral? Is that it? That's a Joe Rogan impression. That's crazy. That's crazy. Hey, do you know where you can learn to make songs with the Arturia Mini Lab? Yes, Elio. Type in how to make a beat with the Arturia Mini Lab right here on YouTube, and I bet you'll find something. Spotify is Swedish, by the way. Yes, Swedish. Epic is still in growth mode. They will lose money for numbers. Yeah, I don't know what their. It feels like there's obviously a period of time, COVID or whatever. All these businesses that were doing super successful and generating so much profit that they kind of didn't know what to do with all that money. So now the general mode of capitalism is you got to see the numbers go up year after year after year. And nobody takes into account all the cost saving things that happened for a business during COVID and any profit that was directly related to the conditions that were happening during that time. People staying home, people doing more stuff from home, blah, 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 being able to sell more digital products, whatever. So they built their business on that. They invested in that. And look at this. It's 2024. We're back in the real world. And suddenly the market is kind of going back to normal. It's not this crazy time anymore. So since the numbers can't go up using the same model. So then you get a bunch of layoffs. You have people like Epic, companies like Epic that are like, let's just buy Bandcamp. It's like, what's really the plan, do you think? Bandcamp cancels artists who dare to dispute whether you can change your sex. If you're an artist who don't believe that's a man can turn into a woman, vice versa, they deplatform you. Problematic. I don't know, Dory Joe. That sounds hyper specific, and I don't know what that means. And if you can point me to a news case about that or something, I'd be happy to bring it up. But I haven't heard anything about Bandcamp being anti-trans. I'm here late. Why are they getting sued? Well, Spotify is moving the goalposts. So for anybody who's just tuning in, it is the top of the hour. So thank you for joining us. We are talking how Spotify is kind of pissing everybody off. So we've just gone through a bit of an article about how Spotify is changing their sort of how they classified their product. They used to be solely a music company. Now they're offering audiobooks, which you might say, oh, that's cool. That's a good thing. But they're actually using that as a tactic to say they're actually now a bundle service. They're not strictly a music service. And that means they can pay less royalties to songwriters. So a big publishing agency is kind of pissed off about that, obviously. They came to an agreement in 2022 and locked in a royalty rate. But since Spotify is moving the goalpost, they're saying they don't have to pay that royalty rate anymore. And they're pissing more and more people off. And we're going to get into the next group of people that they're pissing off after this. What's up, Arnie? Nice to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, Beta Run. Of course, when I'm more likely to catch a stream on time, someone schedules a last-minute 12 o'clock meeting. Happy Monday, all. Happy Monday, Beta Run. Thank you for being here. If you all are just tuning in, I want to remind everybody that we're doing our track feedback stream next Monday, 1 week from today. So if you want feedback on your music, the way to do that is to become a channel member by hitting the join button below this video. If you're on mobile, you won't see it, but you can see it on desktop. Hit the join button. Become a member at any tier. You can become a member for as little as $2. That gets you access to our Discord server. That's where you can post your track, get feedback on it next week. There's also other perks like members-only videos, free sound pack downloads, etc. So check out the tiers, see which one is right for you. Becoming a channel member is a surefire way to make sure you're supporting the channel. Make sure that I don't have to make clickbaity, cringe videos so that the algorithm can somehow find people. You all support the channel and say whatever you make, as long as I keep delivering value, that you'll continue to support it. So you also get your name in the credits on the videos. I don't know if you all have noticed that. How about SoundCloud? Yes, I mean, look, I'm not here to be the ethical and moral judge of every streaming platform, but basically, they're all the same. You can look up their royalty rates for each one. I'm sure they're all bad. Listen, all these streaming sites, offer a percentage to the artist, and you can make a determination on whether you think that percentage is fair. I think Bandcamp is one of the only ones offering a fair percentage because it's direct to consumer model that offers like something like a 70 to 80%, 70 to 80% to the artist. It's the best kind of you can get out here. And regardless, if you want to put your music on a site and you want to have this site and this service deal with payments and deal with, delivering the content and maintaining the app so that people can play your content, you're going to be forking over a percentage regardless. So there's always going to be a middleman. It's about how is that middleman exploiting the artists in general. Okay, but let's move on to the next article. So this has now turned into a lawsuit. So basically somebody's saying, nope, this is illegal. Another article from Billboard. The Mechanical Licensing Collective has filed a lawsuit against Spotify, calling the way the streamer reclassified its premium duo and family plans as bundles and started paying a discounted royalty rate to publishers and songwriters improper. The financial consequences are enormous for songwriters and publishers, the MLC writes in its complaint. So this is kind of hot off the press. When did this article happen? This happened on the 16th. Today's the 20th. Okay, so this article is going to recap everything we just kind of talked about. They moved the goalpost. They came to an agreement in 2022. Spotify is essentially going back on that agreement, basically saying, no, we're a bundle now. So here's from the MLC's complaint. On March 1st, 2024, without advance notice to the MLC, Spotify unilaterally and unlawfully decided to reduce the service provider revenue reported to the MLC for premium by almost 50%, reads the complaint. This was done by improperly characterizing the service as a different type of subscription offering and underpaying royalties, even though there has been no change to the premium plan and no corresponding reduction to the revenue that Spotify generates from its tens of millions premium subscribers. So all of a sudden, the MLC, who collects royalties, checks their report from Spotify and says, oh shit, this is cut in half. Remember that. Remember that when Spotify said, no, we're going to pay record royalties. So nothing changed fundamentally, and all of a sudden they are reporting 50% less royalties to the MLC. The lawsuit, this is Spotify giving a statement to Billboard. The lawsuit concerns the terms that publishers and streaming services agreed to and celebrated years ago under the Phono 4 agreement. Bundles were a critical component of that settlement, and multiple DSPs include bundles as part of their mix of subscription offerings. Spotify paid a record amount to publishers and societies in 2023 and is on track to pay an even larger amount in 2024. We look for a swift resolution to this matter. So, again, Spotify leaning on this idea that, hey, we've got the Phono 4 agreement. Why are you going back on it now? You were super happy with it in the beginning. And of course, that is because they strategically came to this agreement in 2022 when they were not offering audiobooks, and then moved the goalpost, suddenly added audiobooks to their service, and determined themselves a bundle. So while they're saying they're playing this very tricky, and I'm very curious to see how a judge interprets this and how it plays out in court, because they are interpreting the negotiations that went on during the Phono 4 agreement, saying that bundles were a critical component of that settlement. The bundles that they're talking about are bundles like the premium plan, the student plan, the family plan, the duo plan, like all of this, meaning, yeah, it's one service. It's a music service. You have different plans within that service. Let's take that into an account when negotiating the overall royalty rate. Not just these membership type bundles, services, whatever. Now we're going to say we're audiobooks as well. That's a totally different kind of bundle, which takes you out of the sole music space. So they're playing it pretty cheeky here, and I'm curious to see. If anything, I would say that the agreement that they made in 2022, it seems like it was in bad faith because they all of a sudden just went and added a product so that they could move the goalpost. That's my interpretation of this. Now, our friends at the NMPA sent Spotify a cease and desist letter regarding a separate issue. We're going to get into this too. This is the second lawsuit that's potentially coming. Right now, it's just a cease and desist. It's not a lawsuit yet. So we'll get to that in a moment. So MLC makes a couple good points here in the complaint, saying that audiobook access subscription page does not appear to be directly accessible from Spotify's website, making the point that the offering is a bit difficult to find. As a consequence, the MLC says it believes there is little doubt that the number of subscribers who will sign up for audiobooks access is likely to be a fraction of the premium subscribers. So this is a very good point as well. If you're a Spotify premium subscriber and suddenly they add audiobooks, you didn't subscribe for audiobooks. You subscribed for music, and audiobooks was a nice bonus. MLC is going even further and saying that a new subscriber is likely coming just for music, and audiobooks is a byproduct that they might not even know existed on the platform. So that will be very interesting to see, because if it's not obvious on Spotify's website that they offer audiobooks, it's kind of even more cynical and more likely that you could say, yeah, they just kind of quietly added this in. It's not a major push of their marketing. It's not a major part of their product. And therefore, they did it just to circumvent the royalty rate. Interesting. As we talk about more streaming services, the MLC is also suing Pandora. I don't know who uses any Pandora users in the chat. I would love to hear it. But that's an ongoing lawsuit. Pandora's got to have no money, so I don't know how they would pay anything. Do people pay from Pandora? Pandora was kind of like a big deal in early 2000s, I feel. Pandora Radio. Xerix says, I use Pandora and Apple. Tell me about the Pandora experience, Xerix. I pay SoundCloud for their algorithm and features. Tell me more about that, Accent. If you're paying for one of these on the artist side, I would love to know what's good for you. Beta Run says Pandora used to be good back in the day. Can't remember the last time I've signed on to it now, though. Yeah, it was kind of just like radio, right? Pandora's radio station is my favorite. Best suggestion I've found out of Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube Music. You mean like suggesting new music? You know, I've been using YouTube Music more and more, and it's actually doing quite well with, like, it makes a super mix for you, which I've been using a lot in the car, and that works extremely well. It doesn't pull stuff out of left field. It'll go to your different genres that you like, sort of naturally, it feels, you know? Okay, so in summary, the MLC, as a result of Spotify doing the music audiobook bundle, paying a lower royalty rate for US songwriters, the MLC, a royalty collection association, like the Mechanical Licensing Collective is their name, they are suing Spotify for this new bundling. So we will watch this case closely, and we will see what happens. Where do we go from here? But that's not all. Spotify is pissing off more people, of course. And they have been hit with copyright violation claims by music publishers. Streaming giant calls allegations false and misleading. So this is a really interesting one because it's getting into the nitty-gritty, and I'm curious to see if Spotify can weasel their way out of this. But what do we all think of this so far? The $150 million less to songwriters. Do we think that it's fair that Spotify gets to pay a different rate for now offering audiobooks? Do we feel like, is there anybody in the chat who thinks, Spotify is a business, they added audiobooks not so that they could pay music publishers less, but so that they could offer a different product? What do we think? What's the assessment? Are we feeling cynical? Are we feeling optimistic? Do we think the MLC will win this lawsuit? What do you think? Let me know. Let's discuss. The audiobooks portion sucks, says Celestine Prof. They only give you 15 hours per month. I read way more hours than that, especially with a book series. Audiobooks is way better. Interesting. I was wondering what the conversion rate is for a book. Like, what's 15 hours? Is 15 hours an audiobook? Is it half an audiobook? What would you say it is? Accent Noir is talking about SoundCloud. Says they have a new feature that profiles your music and then rolls them out to 100 listeners that like that kind of music. If it goes well, it rolls it out to 1,000 listeners. That's a cool sort of transparent way. I wonder how they're measuring if a person likes the music. If it's like playthrough or if it's likes, like actually clicking a like button. Interesting. I don't use Spotify. I mean, I don't use SoundCloud as a streaming service, so I don't really know what the experience is like. But I know a lot of young people do. Beta Run talking about the YouTube Music Super Mix says, I feel it's a little repetitive at times. It's good overall for sure. Yeah, it's basically, it's kind of like Spotify's on repeat, but with more in there. Bitrun says, Spotify thought it was a double win for them. Expand their offering and pay less for their core service. I think probably yes. I think that's probably the right answer. I think here's the thing. They were already doing podcasts. No doubt that audio, it's actually worse. No doubt, like, the idea to offer audiobooks was an idea at Spotify long before, I don't know, 2022. When did Spotify sign an agreement with Joe Rogan? Spotify signs Joe Rogan when they really made a major investment in podcasts. Oh my God, I can't see the date on this article. What year was it? Was it 2022? I think it was, or 2020. So let's say around 2020, they were seriously considering audiobooks as an extension of podcasts. It's likely that they already knew they were going to offer audiobooks, or they had the idea at least to offer audiobooks in those negotiations in 2022, the Phono 4 agreement that Spotify keeps referencing. So that would be something that would be interesting to surface during the case, because that would show that Spotify was negotiating in bad faith. They already knew that they were going to change the game. They were going to change their classification. And perhaps the locked-in royalty rate was motivation to push out audiobooks even more. Somebody said, oh, remember you had that idea to put audiobooks on the product? Let's go ahead and roll that out now because we can pay less royalties. All of a sudden it becomes a business motivated idea rather than just a cool feature. Brian says, I don't know if MLC will win, but it really looks like Spotify planned this from the beginning of the 2022 negotiations. Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And I would be interesting if that's illegal, if that's like materially relevant in a legal case. Like, if I'm MLC, I want to know, okay, when did you start planning for the audiobooks service? When are the earliest documented planning outlines for rolling out audiobooks? And if they're any time before 2022, I think that's got to have an impact on the case. And Spotify will say, well, we can do whatever we want. We're our own company. Look at all these other services that also offer the same thing. But they can't say that and also say, hey, we talked about bundles in 2022 before they had audiobooks. You know what I mean? They can't speak out of both sides of their mouth. Last week, I decided to use Spotify as a loss leader for discovery, not payment. Yeah, I mean, that's the only practical approach, I think, for independent artists on Spotify. I've been talking to friends. I talked to a friend that, had a lot of success with Spotify playlisting. And since that has sort of shifted and they have not been getting the playlists they've normally gotten on. And it's just back to that idea of gatekeepers where it's like, I would never invest in myself as an artist trying to use Spotify as a profit generating place. Never. But using it as a discovery platform is 100% a good approach. So I think you're on the right track, Accent Noir. This is interesting. Zurich says, last bit on Pandora. To me, it's a replacement for radio. $4 a month for no ads. It's really good in my opinion. I've had it for 4 years. $4 a month is probably the cheapest you can get. And if you say the algorithm is pretty good with seeding the channels and everything like that, maybe for some people it is a viable option. It depends on how long the book takes. Oh, we're talking about hours on Spotify because you only get 15 hours. If you read 3 books that are on average 7 hours, you go over the 15 hours. Yeah, but that's per month. How many people are listening to more than 2 audiobooks per month? That's kind of crazy. But cool. I mean, I wonder how many hours of podcasts I listen to a month. It's more than 15. I just calculated it in my head. So that's not crazy. Beta Run says, it's totally a premeditated decision. It'd be interesting if we find out. Anyone use Tidal for music streaming? I remember using Tidal a long time ago. It was fine. There's something exclusive on it. I can't remember. But they've got the whole high quality thing. If that's something you care about, I promise average person can't tell the difference between that and regular quality, but whatever. Panda Cat says something really important. If you don't smash the thumbs up and subscribe, you support 1,000 sad kitties in the rain. So don't support 1,000 sad kitties in the rain. We got to bring them in from the rain. So smash the like and the subscribe button, I think is what Panda Cat is saying. Of course. Title's MQA tier is dishonest and not as high quality as they claim. I can believe that because the average listener, my brain just stopped working there for a second. Because like I said, the average listener probably can't tell the difference. So they're like, hey, this is a high quality over here. Pay a little more for it. And then you get the placebo effect of all these people being like, yeah, totally different. Meanwhile, they're listening on a pair of like $13 earbuds. Tidal is good for album listeners. Spotify is better for generated playlists. Interesting. What makes Tidal good for album listeners? I feel like album listening is the most basic of features that each streamer has. Was asking because they claim to support artists more. Not sure how true that is. All you have to do if you want to know if they support artists more is just type in Tidal streaming royalty rate. So it seems quick Google search says ranging from 0.0125 cents to 0.015 cents per stream. So that is, of course, a lot better than Spotify's. And of course, remember, we're talking about a fraction of a cent. So we're talking about the difference between 0.0125, so 1 cent, versus 0.003 cents. So yeah, you're right. It is better than Spotify. I miss LimeWire, my MP3 player. Well, there's always YouTube to MP3. You could always do that. But none of this solves the issue of getting artists paid. LimeWire was a big problem, but who was it a big problem for? Of course, it was a big problem for artists, but it was a bigger problem for record labels. So that's where Spotify comes in. Spotify has only been allowed to exist and has only been successful in existing because of its relationship with the record labels. Spotify gives those sweetheart deals to all these record labels. Hey, you can get on the front page here. Make sure you can, because Spotify's a whole thing. If Universal or Sony or any one of the major record labels decides we want to pull all our music from your streaming service, suddenly nobody's going to listen to that. It becomes like, you get Netflix because they have this movie or this series, but you get HBO because they have this movie and this series. Music streaming pretty much has done a good job of having all the music available on all the services and having the features be the differentiator, the features that we're all talking about now. But as soon as one of those record companies says, Universal says, we're not going to let you have our music on your platform, whichever streaming service that is, it goes down. Because like I said, all the other streaming services have all the record labels, the major music labels. So the problem there is, what happens is this like internal system where we have to treat the record companies favorably. That's all it is. That's why Spotify has sort of been allowed to exist. That's why they've been successful. Their revenue is not coming from you paying, $9.99 a month. That's not where the most of their profits are coming from. Most of their profits are coming from agreements they make with the record labels for promotional deals and things like that. Think of all the features and all the kind of contact directly with Spotify that major record label artists have access to that you do not as an independent artist. What do you think? That Billie Eilish gets put on a playlist because her song's better than yours? Maybe, but it's more likely that before Billie Eilish even made her newest record, that there was already an agreement in place between her label and Spotify that said, okay, when the new release comes out, it's going to be at the top of this, and this playlist. And then insert more. I'm not saying that Billie Eilish is not a good artist. It's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying they have sort of like an unfair advantage because of money. Right? That's the name of the game, right? Now Tidal has a DJ paid tier so you can mix FLAC and MQA with supposed gear. Interesting. I haven't heard of anybody using that. Seems really risky to use a streaming service to do a DJ set, no? Oh, Texisto is talking about this. Messing around with DJing, switched over to Tidal because it integrates with Serato. Stuck with it since. How has that experience been, Texisto? Very interesting. All right, let's jump into it because that's not all. Spotify, I have to check my calendar because I think I usually don't have a meeting on Mondays, but I might have a meeting after this stream, so I want to make sure I time this correctly. I do. I have a 1 p.m. All right. Spotify hit with copyright violation claims by music publishers. Streaming giant calls allegations false and misleading. This one is really interesting, and it's kind of in a different direction than the other lawsuit and complaint we talked about. All right, so this update here is just talking about the cease and desist letter from the NMPA that we already talked about. Oh. No, that's not what we already talked about. But they received a cease and desist letter, another one, from the NMPA over its use of lyrics in its recently launched video function and podcasts, and its remix feature that enables users to speed up or otherwise edit songs or create derivative works. The trade association claims that such uses are copyright violations and must be paid for. This is so interesting. So Spotify has, first of all, the first thing they're mad about is the display of lyrics in music videos. So I never thought of this as being a right, but apparently this is another copyright. So previously we were talking about like mechanical royalties, which I don't want to open up the can of worms of music royalties, but essentially if you're the creator of a musical work, you're entitled to, or you have a bunch of different rights in related to that work. You have your copyright, the right to copy. You have the mechanical royalties, you have performance royalties. There's all these ways this gets sliced, in all different ways people can or cannot use your music and how you're entitled to that music. So, the display of lyrics in music videos, which Spotify is doing, is coming into contention because obviously this organization is claiming that they don't have the proper rights secured to be able to do that. So, regardless of the mechanical and public performance licenses that Spotify may have, those are the main licenses we talk about, the use of lyrics and music in videos and podcasts on its platform requires rights that must be negotiated directly with the rights holders in a free market. So basically saying, Spotify, you're adding videos, you're adding podcasts, you have lyrics on display, that's a different right. That's not covered under mechanical and public performance royalties. Really, really interesting. Spotify thus appears to be engaged in direct infringement by hosting unlicensed musical works in its lyrics, videos, and podcasts, and by distributing unauthorized reproductions, synchronizations, displays, and derivative uses of these musical works to its users. Making matters worse, Spotify profits from such infringement. I don't know, I've never used this remix feature. Funnily enough, I was approached one point by somebody who wanted to do a sponsorship on the channel that had a similar remix feature. They were like, oh, you can take any song and you can speed it up and slow it down. And I was like, why would I want to do that? What's the point of that? I obviously trying to be like, oh, look, TikTok, they like to speed up songs. So you could do that here on Spotify. And it's like, again, why would I want to do that? And then second of all, a lot of people are releasing sped up or slowed versions of their songs anyway. Whatever. But of course, if your platform gives the ability to do that, it is creating a derivative work. Like if I want to create the slowed version of my song or the sped up version of my song, I'll do that, and I have the right to create that derivative work. You don't have the right to enable your users to do that, Spotify. If you do it yourself in your home, nobody cares, right? If you take one of my songs you got off Bandcamp, put it into your DAW, slow it down, and now you have a version for yourself to listen to, nobody cares. But Spotify is a profit-generating entity. They're making a profit off of that feature. That's why it's different than just you doing it in your basement. The letter then demands that Spotify remove any unlicensed lyrics, music videos, and podcasts, or any remix feature or face copyright liability. In a statement, a representative from Spotify says this letter is a press stunt filled with false and misleading claims. It's an attempt to deflect from the Phono 4 deal that the MMPA agreed to and celebrated back in 2022. Spotify loves referencing this deal. It's crazy. I don't know why. I think what they're hoping for is that people are being like, oh, the NMPA wants to deflect from this deal that they signed in 2022, and hoping that people don't read into the deal. But as we've kind of already dissected, the deal, if negotiated in good faith, everybody was happy. But the problem now is it wasn't negotiated in good faith, seemingly, and that Spotify is moving its goalpost. And they're hanging on that line. We paid a record amount. We're going to pay more in 2024. I did everything right and they indicted me. That's what Spotify is saying. So I will be interested to see how this plays out. Now, this is just a cease and desist. This isn't a lawsuit. This usually precedes a lawsuit. Oh, too close. So we'll see what happens from that. But I could see them just flying under the radar where it's like, oh, we have the rights to all the music, so let's just put the lyrics on the music. Oh, and let's just throw the music video on there. And how about all the podcasts? Like, people definitely upload podcasts with copyrighted music in it, for sure, without a doubt. And I'm fairly certain that Spotify doesn't have a great system like YouTube does in catching the false copyright stuff. So we'll see. We'll see how all this plays out. What do you think about this one, chat? It's a copyright violation. They're getting sued by the MLC. It ain't looking good for Spotify, under heavy fire. So I'm thinking, if we remember the revenue numbers, wonder if they're going to come down because of all the legal money they're going to have to pay. Class action next, I hope. Who's going to be the class? Is it the musicians? We already talked about this. Musicians can't get a union. We had somebody arguing last week that all IP should be free. So if that's not proof to you that musicians will never have a union, I don't know what else is. Don't need a union. Well, okay, not a union, but a class. Imagine trying to form a class. One time in one of my apartments in LA, it was managed so poorly, so the tenants wanted to form a tenants union, which was a great idea because it was like such a shit show from management in the apartment building. But they formed this tenants union and they made a Discord server for it, and the Discord server just devolved into all these like tenants arguing with each other about the best approach and what problems they were going to solve. So it's hard when you have people who don't just step aside and let leaders lead and say, we got this. And the music community is definitely got that happening. Miss Kistles arranging a class action against TuneCore. What does that mean? Arranging a class action, somebody saying they're doing a class action. Oh, I do know this case. Did we actually talk about this before? I need to read up on this before I talk about it too much, but that is interesting. I was trying to think about if there would be a good person that we could talk about. I wanted to find like a legal analyst that could talk about some of these things and educate me. Maybe it would be interesting to have the top music attorney on the show at some point to talk about some of these things. That's good. Thank you for reminding me of that. I forgot about this. I need to read back into what this case is all about. But it's interesting. The thing is, with the distributors and stuff, I find that with the distributors, it's rough because You're using their products, like they have a user agreement that you agree to, whatever. I don't know. I don't know. They can remove your music at any time. The other thing about that is a lot of the people complaining about distributors online are amateur musicians that have violated the terms and conditions and get their music removed. So, but I need to read more into what this case is all about and see what's going on. But we're going to wrap up today, my friends. That's what I got for you today on this stream. I hope you enjoyed this lovely tale of two Spotifys. Spotify that says that they pay record royalties, but is also being sued by one company and has received a cease and desist from another organization. Very interesting, wouldn't you say? Dungeon Master, thank you for the reminder. Let me do that right now. If anybody has any last questions, I'm happy to answer them on our way out today. I can't forget to post. I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to make the stream public for the feedback stream. And what you can all do is jump over to that and make sure you set a reminder so you don't miss it. So next Monday, I'll be reviewing your music. You have from now until next Monday to submit your tracks. We usually go for about 3 hours-ish. So as long as I can fit all the tracks in 3 hours, it usually amounts to like 30-something tracks or something like that. So there you go. That stream link is now public. You can set a reminder for it. It's next week. Do not miss it. Track feedback. If you could leave a like on your way out, that would be awesome. If you want to support the channel, click the join button and become a member. That's how you get access to our Discord server for more fun post-stream. And a lot of other perks too, like members only videos, members only workshops, more educational stuff for y'all. Like think of them as super in-depth tutorials. That's what's there. And there's a lot of perks. So check out all the tiers there. And that's going to be it. If you want to leave a comment on this video after it's live, I would love to hear your thoughts as you've taken the time to digest all this information about Spotify. Don't forget to leave a like on your way out. If you enjoyed the stream, tell a friend. And I'll see you all next week on the TAETRO Show. Hopefully new video dropping soon this coming weekend, and as well as more videos dropping soon on Instagram. So stay tuned for that. I will see you all in the next one. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been TAETRO. Have a good one.